know, lots of people write in, or they tweet, or they do whatever, and they say, you must get so-and-so on, you must get so-and-so on. But you, I had more requests to get you on the sofa, and I can't think of anybody else who's a match official that would create so much interest. It's great.
Yeah, it's great, yeah. But you're only as good as your last game, that's one thing for sure. So it can all change overnight, believe me.
The interesting thing about you, Nigel, is that so many kids would grow up wanting to be a sports star, but they'd want to do it on the field of play. What made you want to be a referee?
I was playing full-back for the first 15 in school, and I wasn't very good. Didn't like tackling, and that's not very good if you're playing rugby. And anyway, it came down to the last game of the season. We hadn't won a game all season, lost all the games. And my best mate, Wayne Thomas, scored a try right underneath the posts. And I thought, I'll take this winning conversion now to win the game. And when I booted it, it went closer to the corner flag than it did between the uprights. And the sports teacher, he said, Nigel, he said, for God's sake, will you go and referee or something? And I went to help out refereeing a couple of games in school, under 12s and under 14s, and I enjoyed it.
You have become something of an internet sensation for the way you deal with players. So let's just have a look at some of your highlights.
I don't think we met before, but I'm the referee on this field, not you. Stick to your job and I will do mine. If I hear you shouting for anything again, I'm going to be penalising you. This is not soccer. Is that clear? Off you go before I change the colour of it.
Nigel,
Hello, Derek.
there is no reason I can't give you that you cannot award a try.
There's no reason why I can't award the try. That means I can award the try.
That is it.
Get everybody in here. Get everybody in here. I don't make a big issue out of this, okay? But things like that are not acceptable in the game. What happened here or what happened afterwards, I did not see it. It ends there. Is that clear? You're adults, you'll be treated like it, as long as you behave like it.
What I love about that is, I don't want to make a big thing of this, and you get all 30 players around you. You're looking up at these chaps, and you're putting them in their place, and I think everyone likes that too.
It's pretty, you know, if you're pretty good at your job and players respect you, you can keep the respect in the game, and it becomes, you know, it's not that difficult telling somebody 6'8" then, because the respect is there, thankfully, from players to officials and vice versa in rugby, and long may that continue as well.
Jimmy, your brother offered to buy you a cue when you were young. But did he give you a choice of one thing or another?
He gave me a choice. I was 13, I just started playing. He gave me, I'll buy you a snooker cue or a racing bike. So I said, I'd love to have a racing bike. So he bought me this beautiful red racing bike. I took it down to the snooker club the next day and it got stolen.
But you did get a cue, didn't you?
I did. When I passed my 11+ at 11 years age, my mum and dad said, you can have a pool cue. So he took me to town, and I honestly wanted a Jimmy White pool cue.
Did you really?
There was none left there. The only ones left was a John Parrott one. So I bought a John Parrott one, Jimmy, I'm going to say, because at least those were sold out. That was a good thing. There was plenty of John Parrott ones left on the shelf. And I still got it. I still got it at home in the case.
So is this a bit of a moment for you?
It was a bit surreal, really, you know, kind of sitting here now. And you always, you know, wonder when you look at your, you know, some of the heroes you look at when you're growing up, really, like, you know, what kind of people they are. And, you know, it was a real pleasure to meet him here tonight.
Pleasure.
You're now having to adjust to being the star. And do you find that people...
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, Nigel, I mean, you were watched by millions, as you mentioned, the Rugby World Cup final. What was that experience like? Did it live up to expectation? Or was it even better?
When I got appointed to the final, it is the pinnacle of anybody's career, and there's no doubt about that. And I was trying to think of this, it's just another game, but as that day gets closer, you soon realise, hang on, this is the biggest game in world rugby and only happens once every 4 years, and very, very few of us get the privilege and honour of refereeing it. And so many finals disappoint. But this Rugby World Cup didn't disappoint. It was a great Rugby World Cup. And the credit of that has to go to the players.
Your dad couldn't make it to Twickenham. So he watched the match in your local club. And you gave him a call afterwards. And what did he say?
Yeah, I'm quite sure, probably quite a few people here will remind me that in the World Cup final, there was a forward pass that I missed. How I missed it, I don't know, but thankfully it didn't have any outcome at the end of the game. And my local workmen's club in Moneycarrig, they're great people there. The club was packed, absolutely packed. They go and they made
a lot of them wearing Nigel Owens' mask.
And I hadn't rung Moneycarry Club for about 25 years, and I remember the number like that. And I rang the club, and one of the guys answered the phone and shouted to my father. I said, Geraint, Nigel's on the phone, and all the club just cheered, and I was pretty much in tears, really. And then my dad comes to the phone, and the first thing he says is, how the hell did you miss that forward pass? And it just, you know, it just brought you from there, just back to earth, how it should really be, really.
It's very rare in sport for people to be comfortable and happy being gay. When you decided to go public, there are ways of coming out of the closet, and there are ways of coming out of the closet. So this is on the Jonathan Show with Jonathan Davis, and you say, right, I'm going to come out of the closet.
Yes, and I'd tell you what happened was I came out in sort of late 2005, and I pretty much had to because my life was a complete mess. I was depressed, I got hooked on steroids, I got bulimic, and I think the biggest challenge that anybody comes across in their life is accepting who you are. And I couldn't accept who I was, and it was affecting my performances as a referee. And I was pretty much going to get put off the international panel because I wasn't refereeing well enough.
Because you didn't want to be gay?
And I didn't want to be, no. It was totally alien to me, you know. I was 19 years of age, starting to have these feelings that was totally alien to me and didn't know what they were all about. And I got in a very, very dark place. And I did something one night that I will regret for the rest of my life, and something that I'll have to live with for the rest of my life. I left a note from my mum and dad and said that I can't carry on in my life anymore. And just to imagine what they must have been going through when they found that letter in the morning, and you know, there was a police helicopter out looking for me, and they actually found me in time and airlifted me to the local hospital where the doctors pretty much said, you know, after a few days in intensive care, and they said, look, if another 20 minutes and it would have been too late to save you. And when my mum came in to see me with my dad that night and said, if you ever do anything like that again, then you take me and your dad with you, because we don't want to carry on our lives without you. And that's, I sat up in bed that night and said, I've got to grow up here. I've got to grow up, and I've got to accept who I am. There's nothing I can do.
Did your mum know why you were unhappy?
No, until I told her a few years later. So I told her a few years later then, you know, that was the biggest challenge over with, accepting who I was. And then came the challenges of, now, can I be myself in rugby? So I was starting to become a more familiar face now on Welsh TV and doing the Jonathan Show. And after about 8 months of coming out, I told family and friends, and pretty much a lot of people know, but still a lot of people didn't actually know. So what the scriptwriter said, they said, look, Nigel, we can't do these next 8 programs in this series and nothing's going to be mentioned about you being gay, because something's going to come up. So we need to do something. So what they decided to do, look, we put a closet on the stage. The next thing, the music comes on, I am who I am, and the closet opens, and then all the jokes and stuff came after and everything. And but I'll tell you a very funny story about this, actually. This was going out on New Year's Eve. And what I didn't want to do, I didn't want to put my mum and dad through all this again. So they told me, look, we're going to the club tonight, but we're recording the show, we'll watch it tomorrow. And I thought, oh, I don't want you to see the show. So what I did, when I went over the club, I went up my house, my mum and dad's house, and I pulled the video recorder out of the wall and plugged it so it wouldn't work. And I got home, great, and woke up in the morning, rang them up and said, look, Happy New Year's, breathing out with that, Happy New Year's and everything. And how did it go in the club last night? And my mum said, oh, bloody awful, she said. I said, oh, why is that? Oh, the entertainment didn't turn up. I said, well, what did you do then? Oh, we all watched your show on the big screen, isn't it? but thankfully, it just went straight over the head, thankfully. You know, so much.
It's time to welcome our final guests. They are 2 of the most successful British sports stars of their generation. Their World Championship victories have done much to raise the profile of downhill mountain biking. This is what they do. It's fast, it's exciting, it's downright crazy. Please welcome brother and sister downhill mountain bikers Rachel and G. Atherton.